Chiefs training camp rolling on here out of Missouri, Western, approaching the first game of the preseason, a big milestone.
How about it?
I'm joined by Nate Taylor of The Athletic. Make sure to read all of his content online, covering the Chiefs every single day. We're almost there.
We're almost there. The first preseason game, Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday in Arrowhead Stadium. Most of the guys appear to be healthy and ready to go for the game. But yeah, football, it's finally here.
Who are you most excited to watch? We have a lot of rookies that are
We do.
I think gonna make a pretty quick impact. Who are you most excited to watch?
Yeah, I think, Andy Reid usually lets the starters go for about a quarter, so get to Arrowhead early if you want to watch Patrick Mahomes and some of the new guys on defense like Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu. In terms of guys who are on that second line, perhaps third stringers who can make a difference, who can make the roster, I'm really interested in John Lovett, the tight end, who was a former quarterback at Princeton. Cody Thompson, who I actually talked with today, who's a wide receiver from Toledo. Those are undrafted guys who may have a chance to make the roster or be on the practice squad. And I think defensively, you just want to see all the new guys. That's Tyrann Mathieu, that's Frank Clark. The idea that you have Juan Thornhill, who could play maybe even with the starters all the way through the first half as a safety, who could potentially be a starter this year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys to keep an eye on. I think Colin Saunders is also interesting, too, from a defensive line standpoint, if you like watching offensive line and defensive line go at it in the first sort of preseason snaps. But those are the guys I would like to see do well and get an idea of where the team may fit them if they do make the roster.
You caught up with Cody Thompson. He's an intriguing
Yeah.
guy. He seems so consistent. You don't see very many balls hit the ground
No.
whenever they're coming his way. What intrigues you so much about him?
Well, his route running, and Andy mentioned that today when I asked him about it. And the idea is that Cody Thompson is maybe a slot receiver who could work really well in space with the understanding of how to run your routes. You know he's going to catch the ball, like you mentioned, Brandon. The idea that he doesn't make many drops necessarily. So if he plays well in the preseason, right, if he pushes Garrett Dieter or Byron Pringle for that last wide receiver spot and he does well on special teams, perhaps he's a guy that you can see on the field from time to time this season.
Now we know depth charts, especially this time of year, don't mean a whole lot, but it's some interesting notes. The John Lovett kind of listed as a fullback too.
Yes.
And so what will they do there at tight end? How do you see maybe the tight end, maybe those last couple spots from wide receiver, cornerback, running back, they can't keep everybody.
Yeah. You would love to. And this roster is pretty deep and talented. So there's going to be some difficult cuts come late of August. I think John Lovett is, like you said, fullback too. Not many teams have a fullback to begin with, let alone a back end.
Yeah.
But he's so versatile to be maybe a third tight end along with Blake Bell. Obviously, Travis Kelce will be your starter. I think Travarius Ward went from a guy who was undrafted last year to now being the top cornerback, right? I think it's him, Rashad Breeland, with a little bit of Kendall Fuller in the slot, basically in his primary position. And then after that, it's a big fight, whether it's, Mark Fields, DeMontre Wade has had some interceptions in
he's had a great training camp.
He has had a great training camp. So will he be with the twos to start Saturday's game or even get a chance to play with some of the ones later on in preseason? There's going to be some battles, and I don't think there's going to be any easy decision for Brett Veach, the general manager, or Andy Reid, the head coach.
What's your take on the injury situation?
Yeah.
Damian Williams, it's been kind of a tricky road, I guess you could say, through this first week. Garrett Dieter, he's a guy who kind of needs to be getting reps right now with some guys breathing down his neck. Especially those two guys, what do you make of them?
Yeah, I would think they will come back hopefully next week. No one on the team thinks that Damian Williams' hamstring injury is basically severe. So you're going to ease him back. He is clearly the starter. That's what Eric Bieniemy said yesterday at practice. For a guy like Garrett Dieter, he has to be not only good on offense, but he has to be someone valuable on special teams. And that's where Byron Pringle and Cody Thompson can maybe push him from that wide receiver standpoint. So look for them maybe in the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason game, that number 2 game, which is on the road. If they're back and healthy by then you can really see a case to be made for either side. Do you take the veterans like Damian Williams and Garrett Dieter, or do you take some of the guys with some upstart to them like a John Lovett, a Byron Pringle, a Cody Thompson? So it's an interesting battle we have right now with the understanding that, we're going to see more and more football as we go along.
What do you make of Mecole Hardman's, it seems like, rapid rise to start? And he had a lot of buzz around him, just Tyreek Hill comparisons, the whole situation. Was Tyreek Hill going to be in the roster? And this guy's come up and seems like he's still he's fighting. He's going to be one of the guys on the team.
I mean, he's almost a starter at this point. When you look at the wide receiver depth, you have obviously Tyreek Hill, who's coming back after his offseason saga. Sammy Watkins and, Demarcus Robinson are pretty much the two veteran guys at that 2 and 3 spot. So he's going to play a lot in terms of Mecole Hardman. We saw him in jet sweeps. We've seen him do punt returns. We've seen him run conventional routes with Patrick Mahomes. He is getting better, and that's all you want to see from a rookie, particularly of his caliber of talent. The idea is like, hey, don't drop the ball, run your routes well. We asked him about Sammy Watkins maybe being a mentor to him, and he sort of fed into that. The idea that, like, hey, I'm in my playbook and I'm seeing what professionals are doing ahead of me so that they give me a good example of what to do on the field. I'm excited, particularly in October. Like, if you get get those first couple games out in terms of jitters, excitement. Once you know that you're in the NFL and you're confident, look out to see if Andy Reid can give him some plays in October to really score some touchdowns for this offense.
And I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember who asked him, but just about his confidence. And he says,
Yeah.
I might have too much confidence at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love the kids' excitement. The idea that, hey, I'm running routes for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid's drawing up the plays. He should be confident. It's now, can you execute not only in the preseason but obviously into the regular season as well.
What else? Let's pick your brain. What else? What else do I need to know?
Yeah, linebackers, like, the depth chart, like you mentioned, came out yesterday. Reggie Ragland is the middle linebacker. We've now moved Anthony Hitchens to the wheel linebacker, so that's kind of interesting. Damian Wilson's had a pretty good training camp until he got hurt recently, so he's missed the last couple practices. But those are your starters with Ben Neiman and Deron Lee as your sort of swing guys based on run situation, pass situation. So those are 5 linebackers that you feel pretty good about, but no one who's like Pro Bowl caliber, I would say, at this point. So can they be consistent? Can they be healthy? And can they make tackles? Ultimately, that's all the defense has to do is get off the field on third down, make tackles, be more consistent than you were a year ago because you know that offense is going to score upwards of 30 points a game.
A lot of people have their eyes on Breland Speaks and Tano
Yes.
Pasno as guys that have struggled in the past, but look like they're kind of getting fresh starts.
Yeah.
What have you seen of them taking advantage of this opportunity?
I'm really interested to see both those guys in the preseason. And, Steve Spagnuolo, the new defensive coordinator, has said, hey, I'm going to play them at pretty much a lot of positions. Defensive end, defensive tackle. Let's move you around on basically different snaps for different scenarios. Tano Pasno's had a pretty good camp. Yeah. Andy Reid mentioned that to us today, too. Like, hey, I'm interested to see where he is because this is the last year of his rookie deal. He's never had really an impact role under Bob Sutton previously. And so with Tano Pasno's just freakish body, he's long, he's athletic, he can rush the passer. If you get an idea of what he is. And for Breland Speaks, is it more conventional now to be, both hands on the ground, defensive end, someone who can plug those running lanes? I don't know if I see him as necessarily a conventional defensive end rushing the passer, but those are 2 guys to really keep an eye on in the preseason to know how much snaps are they getting, who's getting more snaps versus the other, and can they get some production that gives Steve Spagnuolo confidence to use them in the regular season.
And you spoke with Cody Thompson today. What can we look forward? What do you kind of have planned for the Athletic coming up to the first preseason?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's just like, hey, if this kid does really well in the preseason, he may make the roster. Yeah. Like, it seems outlandish to some degree because they have so many good wide receivers. We mentioned 5 of them already. But Cody Thompson, again, if he does what he's done out here on the practice field, if he does it in games, if he scores touchdowns, if he gets a favorable review from Patrick Mahomes, maybe that's the next step to being on the practice squad, and maybe the next being on the roster for those Sundays. But he's good, he's consistent, he's impressed me, and I think he's going to impress fans when they get to watch him on these preseason games.
Any other stories you're excited to tell, or anyone you want to talk to?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tano Pasno is a really good name. I'm interested to see him maybe after a couple of games to see what his sort of role may be. And also, I think Charvarius Ward is someone who gets lost in the new revamped defense just because he was this close, right, to having his name etched in Chiefs lore. Like, hey, you caught the interception of Tom Brady that sent the team to the Super Bowl.
Dee Ford
was offsides, and then everybody kind of forgets him.
Who is not practicing right now for San Francisco.
Right, who's also injured and, is going through much of what he did in Kansas City before last year. So if Dee Ford is not offsides and Charvarius Ward makes the interception, who knows if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, but they go there. His name is pretty much in every Chiefs fan's mind. And so I'm fascinated to see how he's trying to handle year 2 when he was literally the guy who had the ball that said, okay, we're going to the Super Bowl, and then the penalty sort of changes everything.
Nate, thanks for joining me. Make sure to read all of his content from Chiefs Training Camp over at theathletic.com.